firstly, welcome, Joyce. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Emma.
You're very welcome. So please could you give us a recap of the research study, why you undertook it and what your main objectives were?
Sure. So we started this study because we are very curious about how the quality of biophilic design has an impact on well-being in the context of workplace environment. So it's not just the presence or absence of indoor plants, but it's a multi-sensory integrated approach to design, and how does it, kind of figure out how does that relate to the very non-tangible well-being outcomes to a set of monetized value. So it's something quite new. The concept itself is not new, but having the join up thinking is what we're trying to look at, and really curious about the outcomes of different scenarios.
Fantastic. So the study took place within the offices of PLP Architecture down in London. Did you do a presentation to the PLP staff to explain the project, and what was their reaction?
Yes, we did. It is a very amazing co-design exercise, like a lot of creativities. We spent a lot of time brainstorming together. And although the participants are only 5 people within the PLP workplace, we decided that we want to engage with the whole office. So we did invite everyone to go and do a voting, because the data is very rich. We can't be doing 150 people, which is the whole PLP office. So we try to kind of manage it in a way that we do in-depth study for a smaller group, and then the whole office are aware of what we try to do, well, without giving them too much of a tip off. But then they went to look at the scenarios, and then they did some voting on their preferences. So hopefully it gives a bit more kind of robust result in our research design.
Fantastic. So what was the reaction from the 6 participants when they first looked upon that immersive biophilic wow space after it had been transformed?
Yeah, no, it's so the research design is really starting from a typical office space, and then we introduced the immersive, if you like, scenario. And we didn't call that immersive because we wanted to keep those adjectives away, so they just go in and try to experience. And well, I'm not too surprised, but the first results that we got back, around 85% of PLP staff would prefer the immersive rather than the typical option. So it's really to prove that the integrated design approach is very successful, and 100% of those participants in the room are wanting to keep the biophilic immersive scenario as well. So both initial results are very encouraging. And of course, this research is not really about proving the well-being impact of an immersive good designed execution, because we know that it has a strong association. The purpose of this research is about what then, how do we bring the whole idea up front so that this really kind of fully non-tangible outcomes can be understood, early on in the design, and particularly budget planning. So that is the real purpose behind the research.
Fantastic. And what reaction did you get from the participants when they saw that all the plants had been taken away from the room?
That is very cruel, but it's intentional. We are, you don't really know what you missed until you haven't got something, already. So the reason why we introduced the immersive design first, then took it away, is because we are questioning ourselves. A company, an organization would want to retain and attract talent, staff with different skills. So physical workplace is one of the consideration of people choosing to move or to stay. It might be because of location, it might be because about the interior of the design, it might be around people. But if it links to the physical design, we wanted to look at, does that has a value to retain and attract, new people as a result of good workplace design.
Fantastic. And were there any surprises for you, positive or negative, at any point during the project that were different to what you expected?
Yes, no. So I've been keeping an open mind. I try not to be biased and assuming that, what I think a good design is good for everyone else. I mean, obviously we acknowledge that, everyone has very subjective feelings. Most people likes to have the view out and sitting, next to the window and natural light, whereas some people, they like, the privacy, or some people is less enthusiastic about plants. So we debate a lot about what we think, PLP staff would like. So one of the elements about biophilia is to, understand the context, keeping the culture and develop that connections with nature. So we're not trying to introduce that something that doesn't belong to the space. So no, I don't really have a surprise because I haven't actually made an assumption on what would happen. So a lot of the interviews that I did is very much open, is qualitative. I guess one of the hiccups I would share is perhaps the technology side of things. So it is, all the tag, all the sensors, web is commercial grade, some are research grade. But actually, if it is when it's being kind of used or measured, it is not always easy. It's not so seamless as we think. It does take a lot of work to organize the data and to get the data in the first place. So we did have a pilot study to make sure that everything goes smoothly, but that kind of implies that when an architect or engineer goes to do a post-occupancy evaluation, the technological challenge should really be taken into account. The opportunities are huge, like, the amount of data, particularly people data, is very rich. We can now understand the space much more than what we could have done, 10 years ago. But it's really the insight is quite important. We're data overloaded, and I always go back to, why do we need to collect it and what does it inform?
Absolutely. I think we can all relate to being let down by technology at some point. So how did Benholm Group support you in the research study before and during the 8-week experiment?
Yeah, I mean, they're being super adaptable. So again, it's a technological side. We pick a room and the room doesn't, have enough Wi-Fi signal. So we have to change the whole setting a week before. So we went back to the drawing board, redesign everything, make sure that our program and schedules are still robust enough. But there were a lot of, challenges on the way, and they have been super amazing in really supporting that changes.
Fantastic. It was such a unique project for Benholm. We really, really enjoyed working with you on the project. How did you find working with Benholm Group?
Yeah, it's really amazing when you find supplier or consultants who are very proactive, the same as PLP Studio. So you do need to work with people who understand the value in knowledge sharing and invest in R&D. I mean, this is obviously a project. It's not a money generating project, but we take it in the view that, well, once we have done it, we want to share the results. We hope that we can support, the business case of sustainability and well-being by design, and hopefully, having plans in an inside space will actually make people think a lot more about the whole climate change, the way how we can connect with nature. So it's really, really, really rewarding, and obviously it's a lot of challenges because we're still, working from home and all those kind of COVID restrictions still happening in the background, tube strike.
Fantastic. Oh, well, Benholm have long been advocates of biophilic design, so we're really excited about the project and to see some of the results. So
And then the other point I wanted to add is you do want to have a biophilic specialist, because it's not just chucking some plants in a space. So we did spend a lot of time with Benholm looking at, you know, why are we picking this plants? You know, it's the size, it's the green density, and the impact on well-being. So the selections of plants are informed decision, and we work out, you know, how does that complement the space around it. It's very subtle, but you know, there's always a reason why we think a place is more beautiful and more inspired than the others, and it's really through the power of design and how sensitive the designers are proposing, you know, a new intervention.
Absolutely. So we realise the final results haven't been analysed yet, as it's only just finished, but do you have any initial comments or observations that you can share at this stage?
Yeah, I guess with this kind of study, you can collect so many different aspects of the space, how people feel about it. I think the key is really about being specific, what we try to do, and understand the culture and the needs of people before we even start, you know, thinking about the intervention. So it's a lot of kind of open-minded discussion, but then very specific into the attributes that we try to achieve, and which is, you know, part of the flourish framework that we are using a very systematic approach, but try to allow the creativity to flourish within it.
Well, we're really excited to see the fully published results later in the year, and we can't wait to share them with everybody. So thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today, Joyce. It's been really insightful, and yeah, we look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.